Hey everybody, welcome back to A Sweet Journey. I am Sonia, also known as Sweets, and I am really excited today. I wanted to share something with you that it was really impactful. I shared in my last video that I had some things in the workings and I wasn't sure exactly. I was in the process. I couldn't share it at that time, but I am at a place where I can share. I had an experience about 3 years ago where, so let me just start even further back. About maybe 6 or 7 years ago, I had promoted within my company and I had navigated my way to the position of my dreams. I was doing leadership development, which I love. I was facilitating conversations with leaders. I was being a major part of the change that was happening in the entire company. We had shifted to this model where all leaders in the company had to go through development, and I was a part of that project, and it was rewarding. And not only did I love it, but I was really good at it. And so I had found this perfect position for me. However, I made a decision that I was having these high level conversations with managers, but I had never been a manager of people. So I made a decision to step out of the comfort of this beautiful paradise role and to step into the wild, like literally the wilderness of management. And not just management, but management in an operations part of our organization in call centers, which is wildly different than the work that I was doing. And so I made a choice to do that because I felt like I would gather all of this information, I would do all of this kind of research, and I would become the manager that I felt like I wanted to help people be, if you will. And so I did all of this management, and then I did people management, I did project management, and the current role that I'm in, I am a manager of managers. And so there's a lot of high level program organizational development changes that I get to work with. And even during that time, I was able to earn my master's degree. And so I was able to get all of these things, all with the intention, always intending to go back to that position. I just thought, I just want to be able to have nice quality conversations. And so I decided 3 years ago that I would return to that team. And so I applied for the position. It was actually a manager position. And so I applied for the manager position because I was like, you've gone out in the field, you've gotten all this experience. Let's just go into management. And I had been a manager of managers for about a year, almost a year. I don't even know if it was a full year yet. And so I applied for the position and I did not get it. And I felt crushed and defeated. And I did not understand how I had done all of these things to get to the place where I thought I wanted to be, and then I got rejected. And so I was shocked and stunned and defeated, and didn't exactly know what I was going to do at that time. And one of the things that I loved is that it started this process for me of learning. And the process, all of that middle stuff between being rejected and today, is the part that I want to talk about. But before I talk about that middle part, I'll talk about the today, which is I am going back to that team. I have applied. Actually, I applied for a facilitator role. I was going back. I was going to be a senior facilitator in that role. I applied for that position and was offered the manager position because of what I bring to the table. And so the question then is, what happened between the rejection and me accepting this manager position? Because I did accept it. And so I will in 2 weeks begin in that position. And I'm so excited about it. But what happened during that time? And I think that's the part that a lot of people miss. I think we go for jobs, we get rejected, and then we don't take this time to reflect on what actually happened and kind of peel back and do some really good research about, like, what did you learn or what happened in that time frame. And so when I look back and, they say hindsight is 2020, I feel like I have very clear vision now as to some of my learning over the last few years. since the rejection. And so the first thing is that I was in a position that I didn't really care for. I was a new manager of managers. I'd gotten to a role that I really thought I wanted. I thought I would love it, and I didn't love it. And so that right at the point of where I was rejected in that space, I had just become a manager of managers, and I was just newly in this role that I was in, and I didn't like it. And one thing that I realized is that I was actually running. I was actually trying to solve a problem by running from it. And so it didn't look like that at the time. It just looked like I was trying to take advantage of an opportunity. But no, I was right in the middle of a process. I was learning something about myself, but I was trying to run and get out of the process. And getting out of the process at that time was applying for this position that I thought I would be perfect for. And so I did not get it, and I did not get it because I wasn't supposed to get it. I wasn't ready. And so the first thing is, like, know when you're running from something, because when you're running from something, you're probably not going to do, like, you have to look at like kind of the why. Like, why are you applying for this position now? What do you bring to the role? Are there things that are undone? Are there things that you need to finish? And so for me, there were very quality things that would happen within the next 3 years that I needed for today. I like all in my interview, everything that I could articulate was from this chunk of time that I was trying to abort because I thought I was ready back then and I wasn't. And so the first thing is look back and think, are you running? And if you are running, then consider maybe not running. And what can I learn from the role that I'm in? What can I do? And so some of the things that I did, and I remember it like it was yesterday, is I made a hard shift once, and I keep referring to it as the rejection because that's literally how it landed for me. It was a rejection, and it was a very hard rejection. And so after the rejection, I realized I was going to be in this role that I literally hated. And it made me stop and think, okay, now what are you going to do? Because this is where you are. So are you going to leave the company? Are you going to apply for another job? What are you going to do? And before I could think of what I could do outside of this role, I started thinking about what can I do in this role? And I talked to my boss at that time, and I was telling her about how unhappy I was and how I didn't think it was a good fit. And I was very, very sad about the idea that I didn't get the position. And just really being clear about that allowed me to open up, and just talking through that allowed me to open up and then just begin to explore what would it look like if I was high performing in this role that I hate. And that allowed me to kind of begin to just play in the role a little bit. And so then that's when I opened up and I brought the me that I am and everything else in the jobs that I love. I brought that me to that role. And I don't know if that makes any sense at all, but it made such a big difference. Whereas before I thought, oh, this role doesn't fit. Well, no, any role fits if you make it. And so for me, I made that role fit. So it's like it needed some altering. It needed alterations for me. And so then I began to show up in the way that I knew to show up, in all of the things that I knew to do. And what that then did were the next two things. So one, it was like for me. Two, there were people that reported to me who needed me to show up, because I'm not a manager like other managers. I bring to the table something different. And one really good example is I had a training manager who reported to me who was very high performing. And one of the things that she lacked in her development was a challenge, because she was so good at so many things, people didn't typically challenge her. That is an area that I thrive in. I love having those kind of conversations. And so it allowed me the opportunity to work with her. And we are, like, she doesn't report to me anymore at all, but we are still very close because I got inside of her process and I started helping her to kind of discover where are areas that you could actually improve, because none of us are inside of perfection. And so I was there, I think, staying within those 3 years, partially it was for her. There were also a couple of managers who actually needed the kind of development that I provide. They needed that. And so I not only grew personally and learned how to be in an uncomfortable position and make it work. But then I was also able to impact the lives of other people. And that is what I'm about. And I needed that. I needed that as an accomplishment, because what I was saying, like the 3 years prior, was I'm a manager of managers. What I could say today is I develop very strong managers by doing this, this, and this. So I have context to that title. Big difference. And then the last thing that I want to share is the organizational change. So the organization, I won't say that I single-handedly did anything, because I didn't. But as a team member, I am curious. And because of the way that I ask questions and the way that I show up, then as a team, we were able over the last few years to stand up a very robust training organization. And we've built some systems that work and they're sustainable. And I was a part of that. And I know that those systems were not there when I got there, but they do exist now, and they will exist after I leave. And so those are important nuggets, and those are things that I encourage you to consider. When you think about you've applied for a job and you didn't get it, think about, like, own something. Get inside of the process of it, and then like play around with the kind of whys and the whats and the whos, and what do I need to do, as opposed to staying inside of the rejection, because the rejection is not productive. You say, okay, I was rejected, and then what? And then if you just remember this little phase that I went through that made me perfectly aligned for the position, think about that. Think about what do I need to learn? What's going to be good for the people who work with me, and what is going to be good for the organization or the company that I work for. That's it. So I wanted to share that with you all today. Thank you all so much for stopping by. Hopefully you enjoy this kind of content. Please give me a thumbs up if you do, and I will see you next time. Thanks. Bye.